Welcome to episode 8 of the On a Yellow podcast, Snow and More Snow. Today, we're going to be talking about a lot of things, but I wanted to start with the CPL final. What's your thoughts on the CPL final, Zach?
It was very Canadian for the Canadian final for sure. They were playing in a lot of snow, 10 to 20 centimeters. Came down in Ottawa on the weekend. It was definitely a spectacle, and it's kind of caught the footballing world by storm.
Yeah.
It's being seen by a lot more people, and especially the 13,000 fans that were in attendance at the game in those conditions. It just proves that there are a lot of fans around the league and that people are very passionate about football in Canada.
Canadian football at its finest. It was played in probably like you said, like the typical Canadian winter conditions or Canadian conditions. And you know what? I was not expecting that much from it. Obviously, we're used to the snow. We're used to games being played by snow or played with snow or even being postponed because of the snow, but it was played. Our boys Cavalry, of course, didn't get the result they wanted, losing 2-1. But like you said, the exposure this game got is absolutely insane. I Show Speed, he watched and reacted on a stream, reacted to the goal scored by David Rodriguez, which we will get to later on. And, this is like really big. All of the big social media accounts for football, OneFootball, Sky Sports, all of these big footballing social media accounts are posting the CPL final. No one really knew about kind of Canadian football until that game. Obviously, the conditions for playing football were not that good, and I thought they were going to postpone the game. But for the media exposure that this game brought, the conditions don't really matter because it really put Canadian football on the map.
I mean, apart from, big content creators and big, sports platforms, FIFA president Infantino also posted about it recently.
Wow.
Talking about Canadian football and about those fans there, and that, kind of a Canadian footballing heritage moment that will always live on. I think it's really big for the game in Canada, especially going up to the World Cup, that you're getting, people noticing your local league apart from just the national team, which people are mostly thinking about right now. Having the CPL kind of getting some, media attention before that as well.
Yep.
People will be a little bit more familiar with Canadian football maybe.
Well, I mean, that familiarity, coming into the World Cup, exactly. A lot of people were skeptical of it coming to North America because they compare the game only to the MLS. And I mean, our game, the CPL, it's not as good as the MLS. It's not as good as the Mexican League, but it's just showing that Canada is not just an afterthought when it comes to hosting a World Cup, and that we actually are a footballing nation. We're not just tagging along because it's coming to North America, and I feel like that's a really cool thing. Now, I want to talk about David Rodriguez, the central midfielder for Atletico Ottawa. He really shone and really was the main reason why they won that game. He was their top talent during that game and scored probably one of the best goals the CPL has ever seen in the icicle kick that people are talking about. What's your thoughts on David Rodriguez's game?
I mean, he's just exploded since coming into the league on loan from Mexico. And it was his first time ever seeing snow.
Yeah.
And to put up that performance with 2 goals, it's very impressive. He's got a lot of talent to him. And he's definitely a player that I think will see good heights in his career, whether that just be in Mexico or whether he eventually goes across to Europe.
Yeah.
I think that seeing a North American player from outside of Canada come into the league, embrace the league, and kind of become an icon of the league almost.
Yeah.
With that icicle kick goal, it's really special to see that it's not only Canadians.
Yep.
And that I'm sure there's a lot of Mexican fans that saw that a Mexican player is performing well and scoring this goal, and now they're a little bit more intrigued in the league as well.
Yeah. Well, it was a beautiful goal, beautiful finish. A lot of Canadian media outlets are saying it could be a possible Puskás winner. Do you think that is a possibility with that icicle bicycle kick goal?
I definitely think it could be a possibility. It's just the goal itself was really nice, but I think something that really pushes it over the edge is the weather conditions.
Yeah.
And you don't really ever see something like that, especially in those weather conditions. You don't really think of fancy football. So I think it's definitely a good contender for it. And it would be really good to see that win and even more recognition towards the league.
Well, during that game, like just to put into perspective how bad those conditions were, there was multiple times there had to be a snow removal intermission. I don't know how many games within a professional football soccer setting have had a snow removal intermission. And that's what happened in probably like the perfect place for it to happen in Canada, where, that's kind of what a lot of people think Canada is, right? Is a nation that is full of snow. And yeah. But going also away from the icicle, bicycle kick, whatever you want to call it, David Rodriguez scored another goal. And that was also really, really good. It was in extra time. Obviously the game was tied at 1-1. They needed a lifeline. In comes David Rodriguez with a cool, calm, collected chip. Carducci ran out. He made himself look large. Obviously, that's the only thing a goalie can do when he's really one-on-one. And he did as much as he could do. And David Rodriguez, of course, scored. Obviously, we're Calgary Cavalry fans and don't really like the result. But I think, going away from that, how big this game was for Canadian football is a huge thing we should be thinking about beyond the result.
Talking about that extra time goal,
Mm-hmm.
I think Carducci could have done a little better.
Yeah.
He kind of hesitated on what to do, and it kind of left him in the middle ground where he hesitated. He probably should have just stayed in the net at that point.
Yeah.
Instead of rushing out when he did.
Mm-hmm.
If he rushed out immediately, maybe he can claim that ball.
Yeah.
Or force him to miss the net, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Or if he stays in the net, he's not really on a direct path to goal. He's kind of going towards the corner flag. And, Carducci coming out of the net kind of changes his path.
Yeah.
And you'll see as you can chip him. But the game had to have a winner.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it was going to be dramatic because extra time in the snow. Both teams they're freezing cold.
I wish it went to Pens. That would have been crazy to see.
But it's just a testament to, this Cavalry team. They battled all season long.
Yep.
They didn't have the season they wanted to for most of it. But they made it to the final again for the third straight year. They battled. They went into extra time against, one of the best teams the league's ever seen in Atletico. One of the best attacks, especially with Samuel Salter, David Rodriguez. They have so many, very talented strikers, wingers, attacking midfielders on that team. I think we did very well, to, kind of show up in the final. They played a good game. I think they maybe waited a little too long again for substitutes.
Yep.
And we only had 2 subs after the after like 80 minutes. And I think that was, there was to do with the cold. Players weren't as, tired. They weren't going quite as hard. But I think, you put fresh legs on someone that hasn't been, standing in the cold wind for so long. Maybe that could help out a bit.
Yeah. Going from like the Cavalry's game, there was a couple standouts on the Cavalry that I found really played that final well, and one of them is Gauthier Antigny. He drew the penalty for Fraser Aird to finish it off, but I think he is such a good player for us, and we got him late in kind of middle of the season, and he really showed that he was needed. We really needed that attacking threat, and he showed it. Obviously, he played for FC Annecy in France, came back to Cavalry to get more game time, and he's really shown his skill, his caliber, that he should be playing in Europe, and most likely we'll lose him at the end of the season to a better team in Europe. Because let's be honest, I mean, the CPL is good, the MLS is decent, the Mexican League is really good too, but if you have a chance to play in Europe, in one of the European leagues, you take that chance. And I feel like because he has experience playing, not that much games, but he's been on the team in Europe, I think he's going to go back there and play. I mean, show his skill. He really is. He has a lot of heart. He's really fast, but he's also really good with the ball, and that's the one thing that this league, the CPL, is a little bit, as a lot of the lower leagues are, very cagey, very hard to play in, hard to get moments of brilliance because a lot of people are on you straight away. There's less time to move around. A lot of flying tackles happen, which Gote has really used, and he's really shown that he's one of the best players on our team. And it is probable that he might leave in the summer.
He's really good about, drawing the play out to the wing, drawing defenders out of position to come and, tackle him, get the ball off of him. But he has that really good pace to, kind of break free sometimes.
Yeah.
Get down past the defender and force someone to move out of position to come and cover for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also really covers it up with, he's got pretty good skill moves. He's a very effective passer.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of was the player that we needed to bring in to make a push.
Yep.
He was something we were missing on the wing.
Yep.
Was a bit of, creativity. Someone that can, change the defensive shape based on their attacking play. And we had it a lot last year, but this year it was just kind of missing a bit. And it was definitely the kind of person that came in. He had previous experience with the team, with players on the team, previous experience in the league. It was kind of the perfect guy to come in and help us out towards that goal that we didn't get that, but in the final he was very effective. Another player that I thought was pretty good in the final was Shamit Shom. He played a good game in the midfield. He came off in extra time, I believe, or right at the beginning of extra time. But he put in a really good shift, and he's just a player that, when he's available for us, when he's not on international duty, he's very important to the success of the team because he's just a very strong midfielder. And then, obviously every game, our wingbacks, our fullbacks, they're very good. I like both Fraser Aird and Mihail. Both have very good games regularly. But I think Mihail was maybe a little bit out of his element in that final. He was one of the earlier substitutions in the game for the Cavs. But even then, I still think there was lots of bright spots in his game for us.
Now, talking about the Cavalry here, obviously we've made it to 3 consecutive finals, only winning one of those. How do you think the Cavalry next season should approach next season? Obviously, off of a loss, that's pretty hard for the players. How do you think that they could bounce back and be winning the league next season or fighting in the playoffs? Because obviously we don't have any CONCACAF Champions League football, so maybe that's less games now. Do you think that could possibly be an asset to our team in hopefully making a title push or a playoff push?
I don't think that the CONCACAF Champions League really makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Because it happens, in February.
Yeah.
Way before the actual season starts. And I think it, kind of maybe actually helps teams that are in it because they get to training earlier. And, they get up to game speed a little bit faster and they play against, a good opposition. I think that kind of, can help a team going into the season. I mean, it didn't really help us this year. As
Yep.
you saw, we had a very, very rough CPL season
Mm-hmm.
after playing good against, a Liga MX side.
Yep.
But I think it could help us to kind of forget about the final,
Mm-hmm.
trying to just don't dwell on the past, make a new future
Yep.
for the team. We've proven that we are a very good team year in and year out. We've made the playoffs every single season, 3 straight finals. It's not something to be sad about necessarily. It proves that you are one of the best teams year in, year out. And I think you just have to go in with that mentality that you are the best team this time. You're not one of the best, you are the best. And I think, coming into the season with that kind of mentality could help us, finally win the league in the regular season. Because I don't think we've done that in a couple of years now, back till like 2020 when they still had the split season kind of stuff going on. But they're a team that could lose some big time players. So I think players that didn't play in the final necessarily will have bigger roles. And then those will be kind of players that maybe they lean on to move forward.
Well, I think the one thing that we were lacking this season, and it picked up towards the end of the season, but that was a true proven goal scorer that was actually playing really well. Like, obviously, we had Warshevsky. Warshevsky, the last season, he was like the top goal scorer, doing really well. And then this season, he kind of fell off. And I think we need to get that goal scorer. I think that Elva could possibly fit that role, especially to the type of striker we need. Because we're not a striker that's like a Harry Kane, slow, and just kind of works the build-up play and a poacher clinical. We have a striker that really moves around and needs to be kind of a striker, a cam, an advanced forward, if you say. And I think that, honestly, that makes a big difference is when you have a goal scorer. Like, look at Atletico Ottawa. Obviously, their goal scorer, Saltair, didn't have a good game. But what he did have was this season scoring over 20 goals. I think he scored 20 goals this season, which is the highest in the CPL. And that really proved to help Atletico Ottawa. Obviously, I don't think they did they win the league, or was that Forge that won the league?
Forge won the regular season.
Okay, so Forge won the regular season, but still a goal scorer really helped them kind of catapult them to this kind of season that they've been having. And I think that we need to start playing players. I don't think Warshevsky is the right guy. I feel like Elva is better, and he just every time I see Elva come off the bench, he just looks better. He looks really proven, and I feel like he could be an asset to our team in the future. There's Nico as well. I think Nico could be a really good player for us in the future. He's played more and more games now. Maybe we don't start him because we have a pretty good midfield core. We will lose some players in the future, so I think we've played Nico more. It might be better. But yeah, I think the Cavalry are really hopefully we can continue this form into future seasons, which I think we will, because as history has shown with our team, we've bounced back and we've made another final. So let's just constantly make more finals. What's your thoughts?
I kind of disagree that Toby's not the right guy.
Yep.
He's proven that he can be a goal scorer.
Mm-hmm.
He was tied for 4th in the league for goal contributions, goals and assists this year. So he's still had a good year, all things considered, as well as Ali Musi in 3rd on that list. But he was a player that struggled at the beginning of the year, but once he found his footing, he was incredibly effective. And once we started playing that game that we saw last year again, he was really good. So I think he's definitely somebody we want to keep moving forward with. I think starting Elva would kind of force us a change of play. And I think that would maybe not benefit a lot of the other players on the team the way we were set up at the moment.
That's fair.
We have a really strong cam in Sergio Camargo,
Mm-hmm.
who complements Warshevsky really well, I would say. And I think if we're going to, play Elva every game, it would be at a cam position where he can complement Toby.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't see him necessarily being the best permanent replacement for Toby whereas someone like Chan and Chanda, who's had a really good year in Canadian youth sports, he could be a player that in the future would replace Toby.
Yeah.
He's a little bit more of a clinical goal scorer, whereas Elvez, I feel like a little bit more of a creative kind of, ball skills kind of player.
Yeah.
But, apart from that, I think the midfield, just needs a little bit of youth, maybe play Baldissimo a little bit more next season. We did miss him for a while with injury, but he was really good once he came back from injury. He was a very useful player for us, I think, and he kind of, brought pace to the midfield, creativity, and a little bit of youth.
That's fair. Moving on, obviously, it sucks that the Cavalry had to lose in such a fashion because it would have been great for, obviously the media exposure that we had, but also to have the Cavalry winning. So it brings more media focus to the Cavalry. Moving on, the Premier League. Your team won another game. West Ham beat Burnley 3-2. What's your thoughts on that game? Do you think that your team is finally getting their footing and could make a race for mid-table or just get out of relegation?
They came back. They played a really good game again. 2 straight wins, 2 straight home wins as well. The team's kind of finding a footing. They're going to let Nicholas Füllkrug leave in the January window, kind of, lean on Wilson and then bring somebody in that window, because that's proven to work a lot better for us. Füllkrug, the transfer just didn't really work out the way we thought it would. And, kind of now not starting him, we've kind of started to, make a new identity around the team. And, that begins with the midfield, with Freddie Potts makes a second consecutive start. Unfortunately, he has to get subbed off with a little bit of an ankle injury, it looked like. But he had a really good game in the 60 minutes he played. He had a 7-6 rating and 3 chances created for the team. And I think it's just really proving my point that we need to involve the youth. And that could also be seen in that game against Burnley, where on the bench, we promoted one of our U21 players, Aridas Golombekis. He was on the bench for that game, his first ever bench appearance. He didn't make it into the game, but I think it's a good sign that we're seeing more youth play for us, as well as a bunch of our U21 guys. They all recently signed new professional contracts to stay at the club, as well as a guy like Mamadou Kanté. He's been phenomenal for us in our U21 team as a midfielder. He's got like 7 goals this year from midfield. And he's getting a lot of interest from championship teams to take him on loan in January. But I think he could be a player that could come into our team, help us out a bit more, because we need some help in midfield still, I think. We still have some older midfielders on the bench that, I don't really fully trust sometimes. Souček's been really good in the last couple games. He's got back-to-back goals.
Souček has been absolutely bananas.
I mean, both of his goals are like 2 feet away from the goal line, so he's just where he needs to be at the right time.
Super sub Thomas Souček. Well, moving to that Burnley game, Souček was probably, in my opinion, your best player in that game. He got the goal, and then the second goal or the third goal that you got to get your team up, Souček shot it from outside the box, beautiful shot, and then it was parried into the wrong place, and of course it was finished. But I just think that, Souček, it seems that he should be starting, in my opinion. But I don't know. You shook your head over there. I don't know. He just seems like a super sub to me.
He's very effective as a sub. I don't think he was contemplating retirement earlier this year.
Really?
After, kind of losing his starting spot. But I think now he kind of understands that he's more effective as a bench player. He gets tired fairly quickly. He can't play a full half against the other team's starting top players when they're at full stamina.
Who's starting for your midfield? So Paqueta and
We have Paqueta, Freddie Potts last game,
Yeah.
and Matheus Fernandes, and then sometimes we throw in a Magassa in there.
yeah.
We also have Souček comes off the bench for us a lot
Mhm.
in like the last 30 minutes or so at the end of the game. I think that's where he's more effective because
Yeah.
we were seeing last year he was lost a lot of his legs.
Yeah.
He wasn't the same player that he was before, and he's very effective as a super sub late in games when we need to lock down or we need a goal.
Yeah.
He's very effective at both ends,
Mhm.
and he's definitely a player that has a lot of leadership role
Yeah.
in the team with bringing in a lot of younger players. He's definitely someone that Freddie Potts would definitely be looking up to,
Mhm.
learning from, and I think that's important to maybe not to start Freddie Potts every game from now on would be fantastic for me, in my opinion, fantastic for the team, and then bring Souček on in the later half of the game when you need to lock it down.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, I want to move on to Manchester United versus Tottenham. I don't know what to think about this game. On one hand, Manchester United get another point. We are seen kind of in that race for European placement. But we need to win games, in my opinion. Now, I would rather tie games than lose them. But I'm just thinking, like, we have dropped points now for the past 2 games. 2 games? Did we win last? Past 2 games, right? And I feel like we should be winning those games. Yeah, we tied against Notts Forest and we tied against Tottenham. Now, we were winning that game for a majority of the game until the 80-something minute. And it kind of all went downhill. And I feel like that's a problem with Man United is we play really good in the first half, we score goals, and then we drop down in the second half. And those are the times where it gets a little bit cagey, and we need to make sure that we can keep just pushing for that win. And then 2 people get subbed on. Matthias Tell from former Bayern Munich wonder kid player, and Richarlison. Matthias Tell scores a beautiful goal. It's 1-1. Then Richarlison scores a kind of directional header. It kind of just got to him. He kind of just headed it over, and it went in the net. And then he takes his shirt off, and he celebrates like he's won the game. Now, 90th minute rolls around. The 90+6th minute rolls around. Man United have one more chance. They get a corner kick. The corner gets flown in right to the back post, where our savior of this game, another center back savior, another header, De Ligt freaking is insane. Like, he headed the ball, and it went in the net, and he celebrated. He's been our most consistent center back this season, in my opinion. He's won a lot of chances for us. He has really won the ball a lot. And in my opinion, he has been our most consistent, especially without Lisandro Martinez, which you've been fortunate of having in previous seasons and has really helped us. He's been injured for like the 16,000th time, but he's apparently coming back, which is a really big thing for us. But I don't know. With Manchester United, we shouldn't be dropping points. We should be winning games, and I want our team to be winning games. Now, I like this position in the league that we have right now, where we win and we're kind of up in top 4, and then when we lose, we're down below. But I like how we're not losing games, but I think we need to be more consistent now and winning the games. Seeing that most of the games we are winning, and we lose or we tied the game because we have to scramble back because we were winning the game. They come back in the second half. They're winning the game, and we have to come back again and tie the game up. And I feel like we just need to really focus on fully winning those games, because we talked about it in another episode that champion-winning teams, people that win the championship, are teams that constantly know how to win, and when adversity hits them, they know how to bounce back. And I feel like Manchester United just need to keep doing what they're doing so they hopefully can get that top 4 placement that we desire.
I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to see players like an Aiden Heaven getting involved more in the defensive half, get into more games over a player like a Luke Shaw?
Well, you talked about your team in having more of an influence with young players, and I feel like Manchester United's identity has always revolved around that. It's always revolved around playing youth talent from our academy or just youth talent that we've picked up. And I feel like Manchester United, we do need to be playing a little bit more of those players. Now, I don't think starting games, I feel like Luke Shaw has been really consistent this year. He's been really good. But we have other players that we just don't play. And I think our center backs are our weirdest position because we have a lot of slower defensemen. And like I said before, like it doesn't work with Ruben Amorim's system, but right now it's working. I don't really know how that really works. I think they just changed how their movement that they do with a 3-back. But I feel like we need to play Aiden Heaven because center backs is such a position that we are going to lack in the future coming up here with our center backs aging. Obviously, Luke Shaw is going up in age. Maguire is going up in age. De Ligt's still there, but he's almost in his 30s. And I feel like we need to really focus on that. And we picked up Aiden Heaven for that reason. And I feel like we need to play Euro. We need to play Aiden Heaven. I feel like if we're playing against teams, I mean, no offense, like a West Ham or a Wolves or a Burnley, any of these teams that are kind of facing this relegation battle, we should be playing more of our younger talent or our bench players because we have the bench talent in a sense of young talent coming up. We don't even play Cheeto Obi anymore, and I feel like he should be putting in, because in my opinion, he's a really good striker that could possibly, has so much potential that he could possibly be one of Man United's kind of options in that number 9 position.
Cheeto Obi's brother, actually, he plays for West Ham's academy. Chuck Obi. He was our under-18 team, yeah.
Well, I mean, both of Manchester United and West Ham have good taste when it comes to promising young talent, I guess. But no, we need to make sure that we're playing these younger talent because that's the way you grow a team. We've seen it with Liverpool. If we go to Liverpool's game, Liverpool lost 3-0. Instead of relying on young talent that they've gone through the ranks with in Liverpool or that they've picked up from other teams' academies, they've relied on spending the cash in the summer transfer window, which has resulted in them really not performing to the standard that they should be. And I think that's an understatement. I think that they should be way better than they are. If we go to the game, they lost 3-0. They are 3-0 buddies with Manchester United and losing 3-0 to Manchester City. And Wirtz has basically been completely invisible. Ekitike started the game, and I think he needs to play more. I think that Arne Slot needs to play more. And Isak has been absolutely invisible as well.
I mean, all of the players that they spent a ton of money on, like none of them can find their form recently. No. They've been really struggling to find, a winning edge at all this year. They have 6 wins, 0 draws, and 5 losses in the Prem.
Mm-hmm.
It's been tough sledding for them recently. And, there's not really a single bright spot I can think of in the team right now.
No.
They only had 1 shot on target in that game. They were really, really poor. And, Marwadashvili, he caused a foul to, he got a penalty, called against him. Luckily he saved it, but it's just, it's kind of a testament to how their season's been going.
Mm-hmm.
They're having a really rough go of it. And I think that they maybe went in the wrong direction in the summer. We said that before.
Yeah.
But we can look at Isak's former team too. They're having a really rough season. They can't seem to find much form either. And, is it, like a bit of an Isak curse going on right now where, all of his teams aren't doing very well.
Well, with Liverpool, there's been rumblings of Arne Slot potentially being sacked. And it's kind of like for me, it's the attitude that every fan base of a top 4 English team has. Man United's had it, Arsenal's had it, Man City has had it, Liverpool has had it, Newcastle have had it. It's all of this thinking that if once your form starts dropping and you're not consistently winning or you're not in that top 4 placement, there's always rumbling saying the manager's not good enough, the manager needs to be out. I'm kind of indifferent with this one because of Man United and them sacking their manager during this time last year. I've seen how it's not worked well. But then also I'm thinking it's like with Arne Slot, is his system working? Because the players that he brought on, like, is it the players' problem, like the players playing bad, or is it the system problem and the manager and the climate of the club now needs to just have a new manager? Or is getting a new manager almost kind of a curse to the team and will kind of lead them to even having worse form and being what Man United had last season, being bottom of the table? I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent. I think they shouldn't sack him because I'm looking at the form. And, I mean, obviously losing a bunch of games like this is not good. But they're, 8th place right now? And I think with a Liverpool team with the caliber, you would think that they would go up. Like, Man United, with the caliber that we had last season, it was kind of warranted that we made and we got to that level, right? We got to that bottom of the table. But with Liverpool, they spent $160 million on players like Wirtz, Isak, Ekitike, 3 players there that are arguably last season one of the best attackers in the world. And I feel like if they can find form, they can become a really good team. It's just a situation of, I think it would be too early to sack Arne Slot. I feel like you need to wait this season, and if by the end of the season Liverpool is sitting in a relegation battle, then that's your time to say, you know what, you got us to glory your first season, but the second season isn't good enough with the players, and we allowed you to pay this much money for these players. It's not going to work out. We can get a new option.
Well, there's been a team that's kind of on a wonder run in the Premier League right now, and that would be Sunderland. Big draw against Arsenal, top of the table Arsenal. And, Arsenal only had 3 goals against before this match, and now it's 5. Sunderland almost scored as many goals as Arsenal have let in the rest of the season in one game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just really proving that, Sunderland has that fight this season. They're one of those promoted teams that, we're seeing that fight again from a promoted team, that they really do want to stay up. They're not, kind of sulking towards the bottom of the table. They're top 4. They had a 90+4 goal, which was an incredible goal
by Brian Barabi.
And their first goal in that game to put them up 1-0 by Dan Ballard was an incredible finish as well. And it's kind of just really been like nobody saw it coming.
Well, no, they haven't been in top flight football in at least 5 or 6 seasons. They obviously found popularity through Sunderland Till I Die's documentary series, but they've really shown this season, they've shown kind of the heart of a team that just got promoted and is doing well. Obviously, I don't think there's that much things you really can talk about Sunderland in the sense of, they're kind of in this water that you wouldn't really think that a team just getting promoted would be. They're sitting 4th place right now. I think Sunderland is probably, by the end of the season, they could probably finish in a Europa League position if they keep up the form. I don't think they're going to make Champions League football. I would love to see it if Manchester United's in there. But, I think they could make a Europa League, and that would be huge for a team that hasn't seen European football in a while now. But I think it's just the climate at the club. They're riding this wave of good form, and they're just doing every single game. They're doing what they've done the previous game, and it's working. And they just have this heart. They have this kind of ideology and this thinking that they're not in a place that people think they should be, but they believe that they should be, and that belief has really driven them to success in the Premier League. And I hope even next season and the seasons after that, they can keep up this form. Because I feel like a team like Sunderland, with the fan base that they have, the stadium that they have, the Stadium of Light, and just kind of the popularity of this team, really deserves to be battling in that top 6 placement in the Premier League. And it'd be really neat to see Newcastle versus Sunderland's derby coming up shortly.
I mean, that derby will be between a team at the top of their form and a team at the very bottom of their form.
Which is opposite from all the other years that this derby has kind of happened in the recent years, where Sunderland has been seen as the underdog and Newcastle has been seen as kind of the Goliath. But now kind of the tables have turned, and it's going to be a really even affair, which is going to be really neat to see. I love derbies that are very even, because it doesn't mean that one team is going to win all the time. It's a derby because both teams are battling and fighting for it. And it's going to be a really interesting game to see.
I mean, we can talk about another team that's had a really, really bad start to their Premier League season in Wolverhampton. Yet another loss for Wolves, 3-0 to Chelsea. They showed nothing in that game. They had no shots on net. A 6.1 team rating.
It seems almost like a definite
they've kind of seemed
relegation.
Kind of given up.
Yeah.
They've only scored 7 goals all year, and no player has more than 1 goal, so they have 7 different goal scorers. They don't have a proven striker. They don't have anyone that's, kind of trying to put the team on their back.
Well, they've lost Cunha to Manchester United, and I think Cunha last season, I think Wolves were in the same position last season. They weren't doing that well. I feel like Cunha was a guy that he was that driving force for them. He won a lot of games for them, and he just got that class and that, ability on the team, and I feel like they're missing that this year.
I mean, they have 2 points all year, no wins, 2 draws, and 9 losses, I think now it is.
And what is it, a negative
18.
18 or 19?
18 goal differential.
18 goal differential. It's just absolutely...
I mean, they only had 36% of the ball in that match, and it's not like any of Chelsea's top players scored in that match either.
No.
It was kind of, second stringers in that match.
Garnacho, I obviously don't like that guy being a Manchester United fan, but he really played well. He got 2 assists and like a 9.5 rating or something like that. Absolutely insane. But yeah, no. I put on this stat. I was looking at OneFootball. I was looking at Wolverhampton stats this season. And, you talked about them having only 47% possession and the 18 goal differential, negative 18 goal differential, which is just absolutely abysmal. But you look at this, per match, they have lower than a 1 goals per match, and they have higher than a 2 goals conceded per match. So they have a 0.6 goals per match and a 2.3 goals conceded per match. That is signs of a relegated team, in my opinion. It's only been 11 matches, but in those 11 matches, if you haven't gotten really anything from those, 2 ties and no wins, it just really shows that you're getting relegated. Well, I mean, look at it last season. Southampton was at this level, and, I think, they got relegated, and they're not even doing that well in the championship. So it's just kind of like, I think this is a relegated team.
Well, Wolves, they're 7 points clear at the bottom of the table.
Yeah.
The second lowest team was Notts Forest with 9 points.
Yeah.
And then, West Ham and Burnley at 10. It's just, West Ham fans and Nottingham fans, they think they were having it bad. I can't imagine being a Wolverhampton fan.
No.
There'd be tragic times at the club.
Well, especially because Wolves have been actually decent Premier League kind of sides. They've sat mid-table. They haven't gone crazy to like top 5, top 6, but they've really shown that they're a team that can stay, and they've stayed in the Premier League for a while now. But I think it's just time that they just can't. They have to go absolutely. Well, they have to have a miracle almost to get out here. They have to win almost every game now. You know, they dug themselves into a very large hole, and it's going to be very hard to climb out of it. And, you know, the form, I think in the January transfer window, their one thing that they need is a goal scorer. They need a striker that can score goals. They haven't scored enough goals this season, and when you don't score enough goals this season and you concede too many, you're going to lose games, and you're going to sit at that bottom of the table. And this is a team, like, it's not like it's a team that's newly promoted. It's a team that stayed in the league for a while now, and I feel like if you want to stay in the league even more, you have to fight like a Premier League team. And Sunderland showed that they have the ability to be a Premier League team, and Wolves are showing that they don't. Do you think that this could be the worst record of any Premier League team, or do you think Derby County is still there? Isn't Derby County, was they at like 2 points only?
I can't remember exactly what Derby had, but it was a rough year for Southampton last year.
Yep.
It was, people didn't really think they had much of a chance going into the season because they didn't really spend any money on anybody.
Yeah.
But, then they came out and they really did prove everybody right that they weren't Premier League quality.
Yep. Well, they got Ramsdale. That was like probably their biggest transfer that year.
Well, Ramsdale's a bit of a guy you don't want to go for if you're a newly promoted team, especially. He's kind of a key to relegation.
Yeah.
At the moment, and it's kind of, he's on Newcastle now, isn't he?
I think so.
And they're not doing very good either at the moment. They're in 14th, so he's kind of a bad luck goalie there.
Well, yeah, he had one moment, like one season of brilliance at Arsenal, and under Arteta, and he had some moments of brilliance like in the championship and stuff like that. But I don't think he's really a Premier League. I don't think he's really a Premier League goalkeeper. I feel like if he wants to start games, I feel like he should be playing in the EFL. He's a really... I think he was overhyped when he was on Arsenal so much that people think he is better than he is. And I feel like in the future, he's not really going to get that level. I don't know if that's... I think he's a good goalkeeper. He doesn't... I don't know if he makes that much mistakes, but he's been playing on a team... When he plays on any team that he's played for in the past 2 years, have the worst defense in the league. So that could also be a thing, but I don't know. You don't really know. But yeah, just going back to Wolves, they are a team. I think they are almost an imminent relegation. If I could pick one team this season that is going to get relegated, it's Wolves. They just don't really have anyone except they have one midfielder, one Portuguese midfielder. Is it Neves?
I can't remember.
Or João Gomez? Is that one I'm thinking of?
They do have Jurgen Strand Larsen at striker.
And
he was pretty good
and
last year for them, but this year he's just can't find the back of the net. His only goals from a penalty.
Yeah.
And it's been a rough year for them.
It's been abysmal, I think, for a team. It's just a team that last season had moments of brilliance. I think they have Hwang Hee-chan on the team as well, and him last season was really good as well. Or he was decent. I mean, honestly,
he's
Wolves,
kind of just always been kind of like a super sub.
He was a bit of super sub because obviously they had Cunha last season, who was their main guy, and now they lost him to Manchester United, which I love. But he really was that driving force for that team, and something that I think they miss right now. And in the transfer window, they should have gone and got someone if they knew they wanted to stay up. But it's a big person to miss. And also, Wolverhampton is it's a smaller market than even a West Ham. It's a really small market at Wolves. So the players need to be more kind of talent brought up through the system versus versus bot. Now, moving on, we usually talk in this podcast about other leagues around Europe. I want to talk about La Liga because it was very interesting in La Liga. A bit of some dramatic or just really interesting games. Real Madrid has dropped points. They tied 0-0 against Rayo Vallecano. And Barcelona gained points, which means the title race has become interesting. Barcelona is now only one win away from being at the top. They are 3 points away from Real Madrid in first place. Now I want to talk about the Barca game. We talked about last podcast being named like fine wine. And one player that's aged like fine wine when it comes to playing football is Robert Lewandowski. He was the hat-trick hero during their game against Celta de Vigo, where they won 4-2. He got 3 goals. Lamine Yamal got 1. And he's just really shown that he is a talent that really has aged really well. What's your thoughts on him?
He played a great game. He's kind of that perfect striker. He doesn't really waver with age at all. He's kind of similar to a Harry Kane, where he's still very effective. Mm-hmm. His game hasn't changed too much over the years, and it's really helped out when you have players like Marcus Rashford, who get 2 assists in that game. He has creative wingers on the team that get him the ball in open space, and then he can finish it. Mm-hmm. And it's what he's done his whole career at every team he's played for. And it's kind of, what Barca need. They need someone that, just stands in front of goal and scores. They've been a great team over the last couple of years. Lamine Yamal finally got involved again on the scoring sheet. Mm-hmm. Frankie de Jong picked up a red card in that game.
Yeah, but he was really good in that game. He actually, I believe, got the most completed passes in that game. He's really shown that. Well, he was kind of a Manchester United top pick, but obviously he denied going to Manchester United. He decided to stay at Barca. Now he's getting the game time he deserves. And yeah, he's really shown that he's really good. But yeah, he got a red card in that game, which is a big miss that Barca's going to have in their next game.
I mean, they have so many creative playmakers on that team, between Lewandowski, Rafinha, Lamine Yamal, Rashford, and you can throw like a Fermin Lopez in there. Yeah. They just have a lot of players that love playing with the ball. They love scoring goals. They love getting assists.
That's Barca's game, though.
And
right?
They've always been an exciting team to watch. They've always scored a lot of goals. They've always had exciting players. Mm-hmm. And I think that having that mentality that's still stuck around the team is very important.
And to the Real Madrid game, Real Madrid dropped points against a team they should have beat, in my opinion. They should have beat Rayo Vallecano, and they had a lot of shots during that game. They had 5 shots on target, and they had 21 shots that game. So I feel like it was a game of missed chances. The teams that win the championship are the teams that score goals, right? And if you're shooting so much and missing all those chances, you're not showing that driven energy to get those goals. And that's what you need, especially in a league where it's kind of like a 2-team, 3-team dominant. Obviously, you have Barcelona and you have Atletico Madrid to watch for. You have to be mindful of that, and you can't be losing points that much, because that means those like El Clasico games are so important, because whoever wins those really has a big shot at winning the league. And obviously Barcelona had a great season last year domestically. They won the league, and it's something that Real Madrid lacked. But now that Mbappe's form is back, only having 5 shots on goal and having 21 shots overall really just shows that like they really should have won that game, but they missed the chances that they had. Now, someone on Real Madrid I really want to talk about is Valverde. Valverde has really shown and really gone into this Real Madrid team for a lot of seasons now, has really shown that he's one of the best midfielders in the world. He had the most completed passes during that game, and day in and day out, he has the most completed passes in the games that he plays. He's a really good playmaker. He does exactly what a midfielder does, and you want a midfielder to do, and that is make chances. And obviously, when you have the likes of Vinicius Jr., Mbappe, Rodrigo, all of these really talented players up front, having a good midfielder to kind of put two and two together and connect the defense with the strikers and the attackers is a really good thing to have. What's your thoughts on Valverde's game?
He's always a player I've liked. Sometimes, when I'm deeper into a career mode on FIFA, he's a player I like to pick up for the midfield.
High potential.
He's got very high potential. He's got a very high rating in the game, but I think that's very warranted because he plays like that in real life too. He's very strong.
Mm-hmm.
He's very creative on the ball, and I think he's kind of a key to Real Madrid. He's if it didn't have a player like a Valverde in there, I don't think they'd be as successful. And he's kind of like the glue that holds the team together in the midfield. They have other great midfielders like Tchouaméni, Bellingham, but Valverde kind of brings his own element to the team. He's a very unique player, in my opinion, and he's a player that, he's very helpful to have in that team. And I think both Real Madrid and the Uruguayan national team are very lucky to have him.
Well, he has a wicked shot. He has one of the strongest shots I've ever seen. You search up his goal reel, highlight reel, and all the goals are these like absolute rockets from the midfield, from outside the box. Absolutely beautiful goals. But yeah, like you said, like he's become an asset for that Real Madrid team, and I feel like it's warranted that he's become an asset and he's kind of got the torch passed to him. If you think about Real Madrid's midfield before, they had Casemiro, Kroos, and Modric. Three, arguably one of the best midfielders to ever live. Two of them, Kroos and Modric, play a similar game to a Valverde in the sense that they are box-to-box midfielders. They kind of create the flow of the game. They speed it up when they need to. They slow it down when they need to. They play what really good midfielders do, and that's dictating the game speed and just dictating the game itself. And Valverde is kind of fit into that role now. Kroos retired, Modric left to AC Milan, and he was the guy that they were now going for. He's the guy that has the experience. He's the guy that's the oldest one out of the midfield triad that they play. And he's really shown that he's fit into this role. And he's just an asset for them to, make a push for the league championship, make a push in their domestic league cups, and also just make a push in the Champions League where they want to find their form again and win it for the 17th time, I think it is now. Win it for, Real Madrid. Win the Champions League again. And I feel like that's good. Anything you want to touch on for the last couple minutes of this podcast?
I'm going to touch a little bit on the Italian League Serie A.
Mm-hmm.
Some interesting results recently, and the league has been very interesting this season in that it's very close at the top of the table.
Yeah.
Napoli, they lost one game to
and they
Bologna.
dropped points.
They dropped from first in the table all the way down to fourth.
Yeah.
And it's is a really close league this year. You can't.
It's interesting, isn't it?
You can't drop your points against the team you should be beating. They lost 2-0 to Bologna, and kind of a shock result. As they're the reigning champions.
Mm-hmm.
But Napoli was really poor in that game.
Yeah.
They only had one shot on
Wow.
net. They had, despite having more possession. I don't know what they were doing with all their possession. They were maybe just kind of pinned back in their own end. But Bologna with that win,
Mm-hmm.
they've climbed up to fifth in the table, and they're only 1 point behind Napoli now. So I believe, from first to fifth is a 3-point gap. It's a very close league right now. And, a team that you would usually expect to be up near the top, Fiorentina, they're having a really bad season, and they haven't won a single game. 5 draws on the year. They need to find a winning edge soon, Or it could be a similar story to Sassuolo, who got relegated last year. They're usually known as a mid-table team in the Italian top division. That's what they are now again this year after being promoted. But I feel like a Fiorentina, they have big plans. They're planning to build a new stadium, and now they're having this really rough season where, they're kind of dealing with some injuries to their top players. But you would still think, a team like a Fiorentina with that rich history would perform well.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be a shock relegation, I think.
So we have to end the show now. Obviously, it's been a pretty good show. We've talked about pretty much everything we wanted to talk about today. If you've missed this show or you joined halfway through, you can see the full episode on our YouTube on a yellow, or snippets of it on our Instagram and YouTube on a yellow as well. Now, I've been Liam, and as per usual, Zach, do you want to do your typical sign-off?
Maybe, or do I not want to do it this time?
Oh no.
Do we switch it up?
Do I do it now?
I mean, maybe you have to.
Oh no. I was not ready for this. Well, I'm going to do a really bad one because Zach put me on the spot here. Just thank you and goodbye. That's going to be mine. Thank you and goodbye, guys. It's been a pleasure.